welcome to the Warhammer Workshop podcast. My name is Amy Frost, and I am here with my very good friend, JF Dubow. JF, we're here. Let's go.
Hey, here we go. Let's do it. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the Horus Heresy debacle?
Let's start there, because let's get the bad news out of the way. The questionable news?
Yeah, because I'm angry. Like, episode 0, we teased that JF can get angry at Games Workshop, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
But as I will explain, I get less angry as the situation devolves. So here's the thing. Games Workshop, last Saturday, started pre-order for a bunch of new stuff. We'll talk about some of the Chaos things. But one of the things I was most interested in, most excited was for the Horus Heresy Aeronautica Imperialis book, which is basically how to play Aeronautica Imperialis in the Horus Heresy. So, oops, all Space Marines and Imperial, which has kind of been the mood for Aeronautica Imperialis anyways.
Yeah.
But I figured this is cool. This is gonna breathe new life into a game that is not getting the credit it deserves. No. It's an awesome game. It is probably the best rule set for a miniature game I've ever played. In fact, the only thing that might have been any competition to it was the original Forge World Aeronautica Imperialis rule set, but that had its own problems, but also its own qualities. Anyways, long story short, I am playing Aeronautica Imperialis at my local gaming store. I'm playing against my brother. We're having a blast. It's great. I know I'm going to have to stop the game at some point and do my pre-order. That's cool. He needs to pre-order his stuff too. There's a 40K tournament going on in the background. Once in a while, people come and see us and say, oh, is that the playing game? Yes, it is. You should get it. I am doing my due diligence. I am promoting that thing. I am just on board and I'm getting my ass kicked by some orcs. Fine. Cool. I tried to pre-order the thing. It hasn't been like a ton of hours. Like it's like it was up for pre-order for maybe an hour and a half before I logged on my phone, and they're out of stock. So, this is the game that they're not supporting as much as I would want them, presumably because it's not as popular as it should be. And judging from the number of questions I got, I guess doesn't have that much traction. Yet somehow they still underprepared.
So I logged in maybe 20 minutes after the pre-orders went live, and it was out of stock. And several of my hobby people that I follow on Twitter were like, what is going on? So in one of the various and sundry hobby groups on Facebook that I'm a part of, somebody had a online chat with a Games Workshop support person that said, quote, its rules may be available in a future publication, but that the book was a limited release, which was not great news at the time.
It is not great news, but there's other mitigating factors that do apply right now. Yes. If you go, I haven't checked every region specifically, but at least for Canada, right now, the book and the cards are listed as temporarily out of stock online.
That is the same in the US.
Perfect. I'm assuming that's across the board. And also, if my brother did go to the actual physical store from Montreal and asked the manager there, and he was told that North America, basically that release is delayed. So I suspect, and I wish Games Workshop was more transparent about these things instead of having like the 12 to 24 Aeronautica Imperialis fans in North America be angry at them. They could tell us if there's been a supply chain issue.
Yeah.
We're living in that post-evergreen ship problem era where we understand that supply chain issues exist.
Yes.
So that's where we are. I'm super excited. I bought new fighters. I already own Space Marine fighters, but I bought new ones because I have a problem. Specifically so I can paint them the colors of the Legion I'll be playing Horus Heresy, and that box will just have to sit on a shelf and wait just a little bit longer. Hopefully not too long. I'm hoping that they fix this quickly.
Yeah. But that is not this weekend's excitement, because this weekend it's Chaos Part 2. And that is near and dear to my heart.
It is, which is why you're going to be telling me all about it.
Yeah. So first off, we got the last 2 releases from that preview that we had on Warhammer Fest. We got the new Possessed Chaos Space Marines, and we got that last box of Cultists, the Accursed Cultists. which come with the torments, which if you'd like based off of the preview back in the day, I had assumed that those were separate boxes. But no, they're all in one. So we now have the full gambit of how devoted to chaos are you. I will have videos for both of these boxes available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WarhammerWorkshop TV. But just a quick overview, the possessed Space Marines are infinitely better than the old ones. Now, the old ones are cool. The old ones had a lot of stuff thrown at them, but they sort of lost some of their Space Marininess because they got too weird. And what they've done is they've taken a lot of those really cool things that the old possessed had, like the wings and a lot of the tentacle things, and they've given them to these accursed and torment cultists. Those are great models. I was surprised. Most new models are real clean and you don't have many mold lines. The box of Accursed that I got had some pretty serious mold lines, which was weird. I mean, they cleaned up fine, but I'm just not used to that on brand new models.
It's been kind of a gray area for mold lines where sometimes they're there but so subtle that they're hard to pick out and actually remove because they're damn near invisible.
Painting with contrast paints, and then you find them real easy.
Oh yeah, they pop.
Yeah, so it's a box of 5 Accursed and 3 Torments, the big scary guys, all of which are very characterful. And then you have 5 Possessed Chaos Space Marines, which they do like they're a lot more marine than the old ones were. And they've pulled sort of, there's a lot of that Death Guard that they've done. But instead of making it Nurgle, it's just sort of generic chaos. But it's a lot of that managing to distort what a Space Marine is without completely losing that. So they look really great, and I'm very excited.
One of my favorite things about these is how during at least during the last week since the pre-orders went up, seeing a lot of people digging into their old hobby boxes and pulling out the very original ancient possessed, the ones where it's just a Space Marine that has a face instead of a chest and things like that.
Yeah,
that's been a trip.
If there was gonna be one complaint that I would have, because like there are options on a few of these models, but because they're monopose models, which look incredible, you don't get quite as many bits to use on other stuff, which is fine. And if they wanted to go ahead and do like a demonic upgrade kit that just had a bunch of weird tentacles and stuff, I wouldn't hate that either. But super fun models. Love them. Get them. They're great.
I have a weird relationship with bits in the sense that whenever I get them, I'm angry that I need to sort and store them. But when there's none, then I get angry that I don't get conversion options. Yeah. There's literally no pleasing me.
No, and that's fine. We understand. The other big thing this weekend is the Chaos Demon Codex.
Yes.
Now, I have not played demons since 7th, maybe. And I played them at the time because they all had a 5-up invuln, and that was one less thing for me to worry about because it was my first.
Oh boy, you must be so excited that now they don't have an invulnerable save. They have a demonic invulnerability. Now, this is something that's actually been shown in the Warhammer community website.
Yep.
They go through it, but I think it's worth reminding people that the demons now have their own save thing, and they basically have 2 saves, one for melee and one for range.
Yeah.
And because these are neither armor save nor invulnerable saves, and they specifically have a rule that says that the saving throw cannot be modified in any way.
Yeah.
This means that even things that ignore invulnerable saves or have insane AP do not affect a demonic invulnerability, which is great because as far as I've been able to tell, a lot of those units that were difficult to get into close combat, now they can sort of warp in, they can get their charge, they can survive even being shot at. And because it's a different save for melee and for range, they can balance it out very carefully to
Yeah.
give just the right amount of survivability to units depending on what their role is.
Yeah.
Smart move, Games Workshop. A lot better than how you've handled Horus Heresy, Aeronautica Imperialis. I'm
So
gonna harp on this a lot.
that's fine. So there's no real benefit or drawback to whether or not you take demons from a single god or not. I kind of like that because they're more fun and it lets you go full flavor, right? Because if you can only devote yourself to one chaos god, then you need units that do everything for every god, and then they all sort of start to look the same. This way, that allows you to kind of dig deeper into the flavor, and I'm into that.
So, which god do you devote yourself to?
I mean, it's funny because my favorite chaos god is Tzeentch, and it is the one that I own the fewest models for, which makes zero sense to me, but here we are. My demon army that I brought to Adepticon my first year was Sex, Bugs, and Violence. It was Slaanesh, Khorne, and Nurgle. Nurgle demons are always going to be fun to paint. Love painting Nurgle. Khorne demons kind of bore me. Paint them red. Here we go. Dry brush them black. Have a good day. And then the Slaanesh models, especially those new ones that we got a couple years ago. There's the one playing the harp that's built out of that guy's back. Like the body horror is so good. But yeah,
I'm surprised we don't see more Cenobite colored, like Hellraiser for the layman colored Slaaneshi armies, because that would be my go-to.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the hobby magpie coming through. But now I don't have to pick. What about you? Do you have a chaos god? I know you're not a big chaos guy, but
I am. Listen, my tolerance for chaos has greatly increased since I've painted some chaos knights.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think my heart goes to the ever loving Grandpa Nurgle.
Yeah.
I like a deity that wants what's best for me, even if what's best for me turns out to be typhoid.
Yeah. And the Nurglings.
Mega typhoid.
We have a weakness for any army that gives you a friend. We're into that.
So it's my. Is there any other rules from the Chaos Codex you want to discuss?
Yeah. So I in addition, so what happens is that you have access to various things based off of what's in your army. So we have like unaligned things, and then you have each of the sort of sub factions. And one of the things that we now have for demons, if you have an entirely demon army, is there are warp storm effects. And this seems really fun to me. It's one of those things, sort of like the sisters with their miracle dice, that lets you, it's like an extra little fun thing for your army. Which is, so if you have an entirely demon army at the beginning of your turn, you can roll 8d6. And on a 4-up, you get a warp storm point. And then you've basically got, you have this whole list of things based off of what your alignment is. That you can do, and they have different choices, and those go away at the end of turn unless you use an ability that lets you hang on to them. And it's just like, it's like, congratulations, you might get to do something stupid this turn. And I always love that. I'm never mad about that.
Would you say it's chaotic?
It is chaotic. It is chaotic. Not as chaotic as like old orc rules used to be, but it's close.
It does look like a lot of fun. It's one of those things. I love the fact that it's one of the things I was curious with this Chaos Codex was whether or not they were going to stick to the 6 factions that they usually do 6 sub-factions that they usually do for a Codex. And here they went with just, we've got 4 gods, so we've got these 4 factions. You can make a 5th sort of faction by having it be just a mixed match of everything. And then there's an army of renown with Be'lakor, because you gotta have Be'lakor.
Because Be'lakor.
Don't paint a Be'lakor.
Yeah,
so
it's
hard.
a gorgeous model.
It's fucking good.
But yeah, no, it's good. It's what they've been doing is you can play your way. So here, you know what I mean? Like, you want to play
which is the leaning that Games Workshop has had for the last maybe 4 or 5 years that I'm really into.
Yeah.
And ninth edition has really epitomized what they've been trying to do with that.
Exactly. Like especially with the chaos, you can run all cultists now. Is it gonna be good? Probably not, but it doesn't matter. You can do it. Fantastic.
I've been playing a lot of games recently. Well, a lot. I've been playing more games than in the past few years, since we're no longer in the heat of a pandemic. It's still there, but less so. And one of the things I've noticed is, I don't know if it's me that's grown up as an adult or my friends around me, but we seem to not care quite as much about the actual results of the game as much as we want the game itself to be fun.
Right.
So, kind of balance is important so that there can be some back and forth. But at the same time, at the end of the day, if whoever wins it's not a big deal. So if one of us wants to experiment with a really stupid list, I do that. Then there's no problem. Like, I know if I'm bringing a dumb list of just stupid weak infantry and it gets destroyed on turn 2, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And this is where I want to be with the hobby.
Yep.
And we'll see when I start doing tournaments again, if that mindset persists.
When we do tournaments, we just want the one. Like, we don't want to lose them all.
Right. Just that one victory to not feel too bad about ourselves.
Exactly.
So the Games Workshop did preview what the combat patrol box was going to be for demons. How do you feel about that?
So that's real interesting because it's all corn. Which, I will grant you, the old combat patrol box, or start collecting, I guess it probably was, right? It probably wasn't a combat patrol. I don't remember now. It was a mess.
They had start collecting, but I think they had one for each of the chaos gods.
They had one. So the old, I guess it was the start collecting, was a hot mess because it had like Nurglings and some demonettes. I think it was a mess.
They might have had one for demons, but I know they had one that was specifically for Slaanesh, because I remember what was in it. It was basically a bunch of seekers, 10 demonettes, and a chariot.
Because the other part of it is that because the demons span both games, both 40K and Age of Sigmar, they get double duty out of those boxes.
So it's easier for them to have more than one.
Right.
So that's the thing. Like right now, they've got this thing that has it's all corn, so it's bloodletters and juggernauts and things.
Yeah.
Is there one of the chariots in there? I can't remember it clearly. But it's not because they're starting with corn that in the next few months or in the course of next year, we're not going to see one or two more combat patrol box sets with some that focuses on some of the other gods.
Yeah.
Which would be interesting. And I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but that feels like a very Games Workshop thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing about Khorne being first is that he is the highest ranked demon if you're going to play in a crusade. So the crusade rule's always a favorite of ours in any codex that we get. At some point, we are going to do we'll rank all of our favorite crusade rules just based off of fun.
I think we're only 2 or 3 codexes from being done.
Yeah, we just need those last couple
for this edition. Yeah, League of Wotan, some Imperial Guards.
Yeah. So one of the things that if you're playing as a demon allows you to do is for your particular crusade army to take part in the Great Game, which is of course the battle between all of the chaos gods. And so at the beginning of the Great Game, Khorne has 4 ascendancy points, Tzeentch has 3, Nurgle has 2, and Slaanesh has 1. And as you go, you roll D3s after rounds of the Great Game, and you roll a D3 for each of the gods, and they get more points, and so they can change rankings. And based off of where their place is in the ranking, if you have that. If your particular chaos army is part of that, you get special abilities to use. So like the dominant position, you get 1 to your leadership characteristic of models, and once per battle you can use an epic deed for 0 CP, stuff like that. But even if you're at the bottom, you still get like good stuff you can do in addition to minuses. So I feel like if you had a crusade with 3 other people and you were each representing one of the gods, it could be a really fun time.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you need to move to Montreal because I know I can coerce Phil into playing, and I can probably get my buddy Sam, and that would be all 4 of us, and we could have a blast. So pack your bags.
And that's in addition to sort of your standard crusade stuff that, you know, every book has. Yeah, so I'm into that. That's pretty fun. I like that.
It is a lot more fun than what I thought it was from just skimming it originally.
Yeah. No. So, you know, you might think to yourself, I will play Khorne and then I will start on top and that'll be great. But it can flip in no time. And so you can play through the entirety of the great game and determine which Chaos God comes out on top. Which takes me back to like those events that GW has done where you log your games that you've played.
Yes, the 13th Crusade.
So fun. More like that.
It was great. I know that, and I'm very contrarian. There's a lot of these online events for like World of Warcraft or other big games that people tend to revile, but I know that people were kind of upset with the results of that because I think Chaos won or didn't. I don't care nor remember. But I do remember that the idea of playing these games, they would release specific missions every week, and you could log your results and just monitor on the map what was going on. So and I would be into doing this again, especially if it has an impact on the lore. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Love that stuff.
So
and
speaking of things,
that seems like the kind of thing that GW could absolutely bring back in this current iteration that they're in.
Definitely. And this is the kind of thing that can replace releasing new codexes and new editions so that they don't feel pressured into releasing all these books, instead keeping our attention with campaign stuff that's more interactive and more involved.
Yeah.
So speaking of fun things, if you are near a computer anywhere, anytime around 8 p.m. No, wait, this is 8 p.m. Sorry. Eastern time, you may want to go check out the Warhammer channel on Twitch because Games Workshop is doing their Nova Open online preview. Yes. If you've witnessed any of these previews before, this is where you're getting the bulk of your really cool news.
Yeah. Especially now that they're not doing quite as many sort of in-house ones as they used to. I mean, they still are, but they're saving their big stuff for the events now. And this is sort of, I think, so there's this one, and then this is the last one till LVO, I think, in terms of really big events that are not theirs.
I think so. So Nova Open, the preview page suggests that they'll be talking Warhammer 40k, they'll be talking Warhammer Age of Sigmar, they'll be talking Warhammer Horus Heresy, and Warhammer Underworld.
Yes.
I'm hoping we get a roadmap for Underworld. I have a hunch that I know what's going to be happening for Warhammer 40k. It's super exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. But Warhammer Age of Sigmar and Horus Heresy are a little bit of a mystery to me.
Yeah. Because I haven't kept up quite enough on the Sigmar side to know what we're missing. I think the last stuff we got were all of the new sprites, right? Like the Dragonfly Riders and all of them. It's been pretty quiet over there because we had Horus Heresy, which just ate up so much space. So I don't even know when it's coming.
And from the Age of Sigmar side, what we did get was Warcry, which had a lot of interesting things. Now, recent images for what they were teasing for the future of Warcry, if you had a keen eye, you could spot what seemed to be some new chameleon skink models for the Seraphons in the background. And I'm wondering if they're not going to tie all this together and give us a good Seraphon preview and update for new models, the same way they did for Sylvaneth. It's one of those armies that kind of is at that point in their life cycle where they could get some new things, which would be great. And because they're focusing on the world of Gur, the Beast Realm, it also would sort of work together, and this is where they could give us some more lore to understand this quote-unquote crashed spaceship for the Seraphon that is in Gur.
There's also more I forget what they're calling it now, but the Cities of Sigmar update that they're working on. I forget what they wound up calling them now. Ugh.
I think that's what they're calling him. The
Is it
Cities of
still
Sigmar?
Cities of Sigmar? Because we did just get the
Could be not.
yeah, it's definitely, we'll get comments. It's fine. But we did just get the Inquisition warband for Underworlds. They look incredible. And they just put out the war scrolls for those for your Age of Sigmar army. So tying some of those human elements together a little better. We might see some more stuff from that because right now we've only seen like iconography and little bits. So I wouldn't be entirely surprised if we didn't get a little bit more news.
Maybe we'll get a little bit of both. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we get something like some new models. This is always my focus. Which kind of brings me to Warhammer Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
Very recently, I mean, we've had all sorts of variations of Contemptor Dreadnoughts. I think we've got 2 variations or kits that can build 2 variations of the Leviathan Dreadnought.
Yep.
We have the Spartan tank. We have the Kratos. We have so many different things. And they very recently also previewed the Proteus Land Raider, which is something I know anybody that has units of very elite sort of bodyguard type. Like I know for the Death Guards, my Grave Warden can only ride in a Proteus tank, and getting that in plastic is super exciting.
Yeah.
But with that release, it kind of brings us to the point of, what are they going to preview?
Well,
and the door is kind of wide open.
Yeah, because so I know at least here in North America, the Mechanicum book was delayed. So we're still waiting on that, and that has a lot of potential too, right? Like, Horus Heresy doesn't necessarily mean Space Marines, and if
it doesn't.
And
absolutely.
so if it was something Mechanicum, my little heart would be pretty delighted.
Here's a theory that is based on almost nothing.
Yes.
Horus Heresy has rules for different types of assault. One of them is drop pod assaults, but one of them is subterranean assault.
Ooh.
And we know that the Adeptus Mechanicus or the Mechanicum or whatever they were called 10,000 years ago have an underground drill thing from Forge World. The idea of them putting out a kit like that can be used by Space Marines for their subterranean assault, but also serve as a kit for the Mechanicum in Horus Heresy, and why not give it some 40k rules for the Adeptus Mechanicus? That would be an extremely versatile kit that a lot of different armies can use, and having it available in plastic, I don't know, why not?
The other thing we might be looking at, now that we've got all of the we're working on getting all of the rules, we might be looking at campaign books. Like, not unlike the Crusade books that we've been getting, like the Crusade setting books. I wouldn't be that surprised if we didn't start getting some stuff for Horus Heresy like that. Because it's one thing to be like, all right, well, we've got all the rules. Like, especially if you're like us, we are newcomers to Horus Heresy. So, if you give us some breadcrumbs, give us some like, hey, all right, well, here's how this battle's going to go down. Here's a setting for you to play in with all your all Space Marines, and let's go.
There is one final option that I almost hesitate to mention.
Ooh.
So here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
We know that at some point Games Workshop is going to solve their issues, and we will get Horus Heresy Aeronautica Imperialis.
Yes.
Now, wouldn't it be interesting if that ushered in an era of plastic Xiphon fighters?
Ooh.
Perhaps some plastic Storm Talons or Fire Raptors? And dare I even tease the possibility of the ever-mentioned but never delivered plastic Thunderhawk. I kind of don't want to see a plastic Thunderhawk because I don't know that would sell enough to justify such a kit.
Yeah.
But I don't know the numbers. I don't have I'm not going to presume that I understand everything in the background of what Games Workshop needs to do.
It's been diluted into a meme, and so we don't know anymore. Like, I'll scream
We
about a
don't know.
plastic
Like,
Thunderhawk all day. I don't care. Like, I don't actually need one. I have a small one. It's fine.
And one of the things is that now that Horse Heresy is far more of a mainstream game than it used to be, because of the kit, because of all the plastics that we're getting, that means that a plastic Thunderhawk will not just be used by the occasional Forge World fanatic gamer that plays Horus Heresy and whatever Space Marine players can afford one. You've got this bigger audience for it.
Right.
So, I mean, a year ago, I would have mocked anybody that would have suggested this, but now I'm that guy.
Incredible. You heard it here first. Yeah, so heck of a weekend. I think that about wraps everything up. You got anything else you want to cover before we check out here?
No, that wraps it up. I think we're good until next week.
All right.
At least I hope we'll definitely have a lot to talk about.
Yes, we will. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Materials shown in this video are provided fully or in part by Games Workshop for promotional purposes. If you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping us a like and subscribing. Thanks for watching.